Let's talk about the final word on the $2 million transfer from the Open Space and Parkland District. This is the final word because after, how many times did I go to the council and say, when are you guys going to, Ken, when are you going to meet with everybody, right? And of course, like I told you last time, I'm always wrong. I'll show you why I'm always wrong. It's easy to always be right if you control the definition of terms and the way that the money is booked. Let's just take a quick look through this, and I just want you to understand. I'm not going to lead you through 10 million pages of budget forms, but I just want you to understand that for the Canyon Country Community Center, which, by the way, is a project that I greatly support. It's a project that in 2008, I went to a budget subcommittee, a budget meeting, and said, we need a community center here. Ken Polskamp says, never going to happen. Okay, so I was Marcia was the one that jumped into the fray and helped us get it. But they went to go purchase the land, and they purchased the land in 2014. When they purchased the land, it was on agenda item 10, and it was $6.5 million, 6.5 acres of vacant land for $4.7 million. Okay? And this comes straight out of the staff report for that agenda item. I want you to remember where this money is coming from. It's coming from the general fund, Capital Projects Reserve, expenditure account 5201-004. That's where they were authorized to take that money out of. Okay? Piece of cake. Then in 2017, in May of 2017, KHCS reported that there was an additional cost of $1.6 million to relocate the tenants. Now, I'm not sure if the $4.7 million included the Caruso's building and the building behind it, because I know they fought to keep their property and finally acquiesced. But now it looks like the cost of buying those pieces of property is $6.16 million, right? Piece of cake. But there was a third section of land, and that's the triangle-shaped piece that was owned by the county. I have no idea how they did this. I probably could go dig through piles of minutia to find out, but I just didn't think it was important. So in the 2017 mid-year budget adjustment, and mid-year budget adjustments in a lot of cases have really interesting, slick things happen in them. We've caught them before. And of course, it's on the consent calendar because they have all these changes they're going to make to the budget. The council doesn't say one word about them, right? Matter of fact, the council doesn't say one word about much of anything. But on agenda item 15, this is the exact wording in that mid-year budget adjustment. The recommended expenditure adjustment in the Open Space Preservation District Fund includes a $2 million funding swap for the Canyon Country Community Center land acquisition. I got to tell you what, it wasn't something that it includes in addition to what they had. It's the only item in there about that. And it really didn't explain much more than that. So on August the 19th, 2019, and the reason why it took this long to get there is because what happens if it's in the 2017 mid-year budget adjustment, that is in the budget that it goes from mid-year of 2016 to mid-year of 2017. Then you got to wait for 6 months for the auditors to come in. And then finally, by August, or not by August, but usually by June, the report gets to the Financial Accountability Panel to look at. And they turned around and they looked at it and they disputed this charge. They said, we don't understand why you took that money out of there. We don't think it's appropriate. Now, part of the reasons that they thought it was not appropriate was one of the things they said was you weren't buying open space. Well, that's true, but if you remember, the Open Space and Parkland Preservation District, which is its full name, is allowed to buy 10% of the acreage for active parkland. And all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, the community center became a park. Okay? So they questioned that $2 million transfer. And when they questioned it, the answer they got from Striplin was, oh no, it's legal, no problem, don't worry, go away. You don't get to talk about whether or not we took the money out of the appropriate account or something like that. But in essence, that's exactly what the Financial Accountability and Audit Panel is supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be checking whether or not the amount of appropriations were correct. So they questioned that, and then I think, and then I wrote an article about it in the Gazette. I went to a couple of council meetings and said, when are you going to meet? When are you going to meet? And they finally decided to meet in November of 2019. And why do you think they waited that long? Well, I think they waited that long because now they have another budget that they can write into. So the city manager's position is that his job is to maximize the use of available funding from the funds that he gets and from the accounts that he manages. And I agree with him. Absolutely, his job is to maximize what he can get for that money. But at the same time, there's restrictions on certain money can only be used for certain things. And he said the open space and preservation district money can be used to purchase active parkland. Absolutely true. No question about it. Providing that the open space preservation district hasn't bought more than 10% of its land as open space, as active parkland. And you know what? It was really funny because the FAAP people, 3 of the FAAP guys, didn't know that. They kept saying, well, why is it acreage and not money? Why isn't it you can only spend 10% of the money? Well, I remember being on the committee that helped pass this thing, unfortunately. And the reason why we did it was because we realized at the time that we did it that active parkland would cost more than open space. Because open space typically is land that's been sitting there vacant. And active parkland may require the purchase of land just like this in the middle of the city, which is absolutely going to cost more. So we debated it based on acreage as opposed to money. But he also believes that it's legal to expend the money retroactively. So he can take money out of the open space parkland preservation district and retroactively spend it for the purchase of land that he purchased back a while ago. And you know what? They've done this before. They've done these retroactive deals before. And typically what happens is if there's nobody that's objecting to them that has any clout or that can force them to change, they get away with it. You saw it when they retroactively decided to change Tim Ben Boydson's amount of compensation he got 3 months after he was already in office. So I want you to remember what they said how they said they spent the money. And then I also want you to know that in order to be accurate, hopefully they don't change their mind next week, you have to be able to define their terms. And when I went and I met with Striplin and Oviedo about how to read these things, they told me that this is not a work plan, this is a budget plan. And expenditures, which when someone says to me, what's an expenditure? I would say it's the money you spent, right? That's not in their terms. Expenditures means how much money has been spent or how much money has been appropriated to be spent. So when they say it's been expended in prior years, that doesn't mean they spent it in prior years. That means they appropriated it in prior years. And then they put up in the current year, then they put up in the current year what they intend to appropriate that year. All right, so keep that in mind. And then they said, per the meeting, I said, well, wait a minute. Where's where's the purchase of land? They said right-of-way is land. So anytime they say right-of-way, that means it's a land purchase. Well, right-of-way is a land purchase, but they're just saying it's the whole purchase. Okay. You know, once they define the terms, I can repeat it back to them. They'll tell me I'm wrong, but that's okay. So now I want you to see, this is a blow-up of that budget report that you just saw. And I want you to notice a few things about this. One is the right-of-way cost was $8,600,000, not 6.16, not 4.35, not 4.1, whatever it was. It's now $8.6 million. Somebody spent some more money, right? And remember they said they took this out of the general fund, what was it, 520? Do you see where they're saying it's being funded by? It's being funded by the Facilities Fund and the Open Space Fund. But the Facilities Fund is amazingly with $8.9 million, which by the way, the Facilities Fund is the general fund. And then they came up with a new thing, this Park Dedication Fund. So that was interesting. I also want you to know that this whole part, this is part one of the grading and planning, and it was $11 million about total. Okay, not a problem. So we know the land wasn't all purchased at one time. The first part was purchased in 2014. On agenda item 10, approve the purchase of 6.5 acres of land for 4.7, but revenue came from the general fund 5201004, and it's not what it says in the budget. That's interesting. So you look at the next year's budget. And I want you to notice that certain things stayed the same and certain things changed. When I went and I talked to Striplin about this, I said, the overall cost of this doubled. And he said, oh no, you're wrong. Right? Well, I don't know about you, but I think $21 million total compared to $10 million total is double. Right? But I obviously don't know how to read it. But notice that the right-of-way cost stayed the same. And here this new fund, this Park Dedication Fund, came in with $6.4 million. And the amount the Facilities Fund is contributing increased to $13.4 million. So whether or not this open space money actually went to land acquisition or whether it just got spent is another question that I can't tell you. And I'm not even ready to talk about. So my conclusion is that the real cost of the land is $8.6 million. And it's not 4.6, it's not 6.2, it's now 8.6. And I know if I go and I talk about it at the council meeting, they'll tell me I'm wrong. It's just the way it always works. And the project estimated cost for this phase of the project doubled. You could see it. What was it? It was almost 11 million, and then it became 21 million. And the funding accounts don't match. And you know what? If you own the books and you own the definition of the terms, you're always right. I don't know how to explain it any more than that, right? But the FAAP finally came up with, the FAAP finally took the work plan and passed it 3-2. And, but one of the things that got suggested was that any further transfers out of Open Space Fund should be done as a separate agenda item so they talk about it so they can understand where it's going. Well, that would be really nice. Actually, I doubled down on that. And when I went to the council to talk about it, I said, why don't you not make it just any open space money that's transferred out? Why don't you make it any amount that's transferred out of a special benefit district, a benefit assessment district? And the council, you know what their reply was? There was no reply. from the council or the city manager. I don't think it's going to happen because there are quite a few transfers in and out of these districts where there's no explanation. But none of them have risen to the point where they've caused the public to get up and rebel. And because of that, they're getting away with it. And they're not explaining it. And you know, it's interesting because we were talking about the tick fire here. And there's some big issues to the community about tick fire. One of the big issues was the power shutdowns, right? Well, you go to the council, and I can talk about any issue. They stonewalled me. I went and I spoke about the power shutdown. And they must have got a ton of phone calls and stuff. And so then now they want to address it. It was all terrible. Oh, they got to do something about it, blah, blah, blah. So you understand that what causes things to change is you. If enough people bug them about something, they do something. Otherwise, it goes on just without any acknowledgement.